When you're in that moment, it can feel like there's just this weight over you and you're never going to leave it. You think, I'm never going to get out of this space. But if you start to see little glimpses of like, you know what, but I've gotten through harder days and there are still so many great things about me. So these feelings or these thoughts that are coming up in my head, they might not even be fact. Most likely they're not even true, but I'm just being extra hard on myself today. And so instead of absorbing these thoughts I'm having as facts or this feeling of like worthlessness because I'm having a tough day or I'm not being super productive or whatever, I'm just going to meet myself where I'm at and then also celebrate the things that make me great. On today's episode, I'm going to get vulnerable because I want to share strategies for you on how to still show up confidently, even when you're having a hard day, even when you're having a tough day. And I'm getting vulnerable because I'm going to be sharing like personal stuff that I use because I get that way too. And so, even though I am a health and confidence coach and I help teach people to step into their confidence, I also understand that it's not realistic to expect you to be like your Beyonce Knowles of like every single day, 24/7. Like, she turns on that element when she steps on stage. And so it's okay for there to be moments in your life where you are fully like embodied in that level of confidence. I want you to step and embody that, but I also want you to be able to embody a different level of confidence just in your day-to-day life and how you're showing up. And then on the days where you really are struggling to show up or just not feeling super good, like what can you still do to show up confidently? So, on those hard days, I'm going to give you some of my strategies that I use personally, and hopefully you can take away some of them or maybe create some new ones of your own. But let's get going. So, one of the biggest things that when I'm in a period of like, I'm having a tough day, or I'm typically like putting myself down, or maybe you're in an environment where you're just not feeling super confident. Maybe you started a new job or you're starting a new project that's something new for you, or you're just taking a pivot in your business or your life that's something you've never done before. There's a big unknown on the other side of this chapter, and you're starting to doubt yourself. And so, ways to work through that self doubt, well, definitely taking time to like reflect on the past of when you had hard days and you still showed up. Like, coming to it from a place of like, I remember when I started my job, if it's a new job, I started my job 5 years ago. I didn't know what I was doing then. And then 5 years down the road, I felt really confident. So it's okay to be a beginner. And I'm going to allow myself to be a beginner, even if I'm not confident in every single aspect of my new job or this new step or this new position. I'm going to like take things a day at a time. So just giving yourself some grace through that and reminding yourself like you've gotten through hard stuff before and you can keep showing up for yourself. Another big thing that you can do on your hard days. So we tend to be hard on ourselves, right? We tend to put ourselves on this level of perfection where it's like you need to be showing up 110% all the time. But like some days you might only, like your version of 100% might really be only like, 25%, 50% that day. That's just where you're at. And so I'm constantly telling you to meet yourself where you're at. And instead of forcing yourself to go up to that 100%, be like, okay, I'm just going to do 100% of everything today. Recognize, okay, I'm at 50% and I'm going to allow myself to maybe take some things off the table. I'm going to allow myself to set a boundary to where maybe I'm not saying yes to other people today and like recognizing where you're at and allow yourself to take your energy and maybe use a little bit more for yourself. And so meet yourself where you're at. And that can be really helpful. Another thing when it comes to you're in that low space of like meeting yourself where you're at is to like be like obnoxiously a hype woman for yourself. Like hype yourself up for doing like super small stuff. I know this sounds kind of crazy, but if I'm going to give like a real example, like in the past, like when you're in like a really depressive state, like you can still be a confidence baddie and still deal with anxiety, right? You can be both. And so if you're that confidence baddie, but you're having an anxious day and maybe you're struggling to focus and get things done, or maybe you feel like there are so many things that you need to do on your to-do list, well, start celebrating the little things that you're doing. Start being like, oh my God, I'm so proud of you for drinking all your water. I'm so proud of you for you went on that walk today. You just got done with that meeting. You made your bed. Like hype yourself up for like the smallest thing. It comes back to like when you think about like I've used my dog as an example. I don't have kids, but like I hype her up for literally taking a shit. Like think about that. I'm like, yes, that was so good. I'm so proud of you. She sits down, I'm cheering her on. She gives me her paw, I'm cheering her on. When it comes to myself, like if I do one thing wrong, I'm putting myself down. So how can we be that level of hype for ourselves, especially on the hard days? So when you are having a harder day, instead of thinking about all the things you're not doing, start to shift and like celebrate the small things that you are still doing. If you're taking a shower, if you're brushing your teeth, I know that sounds small for some people, but those of you who deal with like very harsh depression sometimes, like sometimes that's a win. And so instead of being hard on yourself for not doing certain things, celebrate the things that you are doing. And that can help you keep working through this harder space, this harder chapter. Because you're not stuck here, you're working through it. And so if you keep reminding yourself that and hyping yourself up, it allows you to get through that. Another thing that can be helpful, especially if you do what I do with my clients, if you're not doing this yet, definitely reach out to me. But cycle syncing is huge because you start to recognize your energy. If you haven't listened to Abby Stacier's episode on cycle syncing, you definitely should. But like as women, especially in the age where I'm at, like your cycle is a 28-day cycle. You're going through 4 different phases of your cycle. And so because of that, knowing that in your luteal and your menstrual phase, you're going to be lower energy, let's prepare in advance for that. Let's maybe do some of the bigger projects or the more social things on the other side of our cycle, and then allow some space for a little bit more rest, allow some space for a little less, interaction with other people. Maybe allow yourself to do a reflective day or a cleaning day or whatever it is that you need. And so preparing in advance really helps you to understand yourself more and then meet yourself where you're at. Another way to prepare in advance with we can't always plan for hard days, but like sometimes we can plan for a busy week. So a lot of my clients are like, okay, I have a super busy week this week for work. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get all my workouts in, or I don't know if I'm going to be able to meal prep everything or whatever. And so how can you prepare for that in advance? And so if you know that's going to happen, how can you still show up now? Because some crazy hard days might be coming ahead. And so in that line of like hard days, like busyness, it can be helpful to delegate some stuff when you can. It can be helpful to maybe like, if you know it's going to be a busy week, maybe instead of prepping your meals day to day, you do more of like a week setup, or you even like have a meal service, or you plan for like where you're going to eat out, or you plan to go to sleep earlier or whatever. Just basically plan in advance so that you're a little bit more prepared for it. You're not always going to be prepared for hard days. Sometimes they're going to hit you out of nowhere. And on the days where it just kind of hits you out of nowhere, where you're having a tough day and you don't even know why, I think coming back to, I said being your own hype woman, but coming back to like focusing on like your strengths and like why you're awesome. And if you need to reach out to someone to be like, hey, I'm having kind of a tough day, I just want to let you know, like that's where I'm at. That can be good. Always reach out for help if you need it, but like try to focus on your strengths. I have my girls, my clients write a list of like their affirmations, like what they love about themselves, and then like have their friends or family like write lists of things that they love about them too. And so on the hard days when like maybe you couldn't come up with one out of nowhere, like I know when I'm struggling and someone's like, well, just think of like what you love about yourself. When you're in that space, you're like, well, I don't love anything, or I don't like that about me, or I can't think of anything right now. And so if you already have a list to go back to, that can be really helpful too. And so going back to the list of like, you know what, maybe I'm having a hard day today, but like honestly, day to day, I'm really great at showing up for other people, and I'm getting so much better at showing up for myself. And I'm a really good friend. I'm a good mom. I'm a good, you know, dog mom, whatever. Like just coming back to that list can be really helpful. And then that way you're not dwelling so much on like that moment where you're not feeling great. Because when you're in that moment, it can feel like there's just this weight over you and you're never going to leave it. You think, I'm never going to get out of this space. But if you start to see little glimpses of like, you know what, but I've gotten through harder days, and there are still so many great things about me. So these feelings or these thoughts that are coming up in my head, they might not even be fact. Most likely they're not even true, but I'm just being extra hard on myself today. And so instead of absorbing these thoughts I'm having as facts, or this feeling of like worthlessness because I'm having a tough day or I'm not being super productive or whatever, I'm just going to meet myself where I'm at, and then also celebrate the things that make me great. And then also on those days where you're having hard days, so let's go back to like the percentage of like where you're at. If you're not at the like 100%, like I say like Beyonce Knowles, because like she has this like alter ego that she turns on when she is like stepping on stage, and she really steps into that. And like I can relate to that in the scale of when I am stepping on stage for speaking or going into a coaching call and things like that. And there's nothing wrong with harnessing that level of energy, but I think you also, in the quiet moments when you're alone, deserve to feel confident and deserve to feel good as well. Because I had struggled with a disconnect for a while where I was showing up really confident in my business, but then I wasn't feeling confident within myself. I wasn't feeling confident in other areas of my life because I felt like I was like almost I felt like I was separating the 2 and, like, I wasn't allowing them to come together, and so by taking you guys through my healing journey and being super open about, like, my relationship with my body and, like, that really helped me start to no longer feel like there was a disconnect between Jago and you guys, like, how you guys see me, and so I really recommend taking time to be okay with all parts of you. Like, you don't need to just think about like, "Ugh, I need to fix this about me." Like, if you're having a hard day, you don't have to immediately think like, "Ugh, I need to be positive. Like, I need to quit being so negative," because I've had people do that to me before and it doesn't help. Like, it doesn't help if they're just like, "Oh, you just need to think more positive thoughts." Can your thoughts bog you down if you're letting them become like your truth? Yeah, they can. But you can also like allow yourself to feel and release without fully like taking that on as your narrative. So, like, if you're feeling, let's use bodies as an example, because a lot of my people are signed up for the Feel Good Naked Challenge, which you can actually still sign up for right now if you want to start it. Whenever you join, you'll start the 30-day Feel Good Naked Challenge. But a lot of girls are starting it or they were asking about starting it and they're like, I'm still working on my relationship with myself. Like, I don't know if I should do it or not. And I really recommend starting it because it's going to help you even on the days when you're not feeling great. It's going to help you recognize that like you don't have to separate, like you don't have to hide from the parts of you that maybe you don't love right now. And the parts of you that you're running away from or that you feel like you don't love, those are the ones that need that extra love. And so on the days when you're feeling really hard on yourself and you're feeling really low, that doesn't need to be a day where you're like, oh, this day is a wash. I need to just like start over tomorrow, blah, blah, blah. Instead, you can think, what can I do for myself today in this space? Because this part of me also deserves love and comfort and self care just as much as the me that shows up and is like rocking that project for work or is showing up and like doing all the things as a mom and like really going all out with that. Like that person deserves love and is worthy, but so is the person that's struggling to get out of bed. So is the person that's, maybe talking a little negatively towards themselves. Like that person still deserves love. And so you need to start showing yourself that unconditional love. So there's a reason, I hate that it's coming up for you. It sucks, but there's a reason when it comes up, when you're having a hard day, you're meant to look deeper into that. You're meant to love those parts of you. And so it's a part of your process, it's a part of your journey. So don't shame those days. When it comes up, don't be like, ugh, I'm going backwards on my healing journey because I'm having a rough day. Or if you're healing a relationship with your body and you're having a day where you just don't feel good when you look in the mirror, sometimes our next reaction is to be mean to ourselves. Like, oh, I thought you got over this. I thought you were over this. I thought you've healed from that. And that's not nice. Like your healing journey doesn't have to be this linear thing. It's really cyclical and it's going up, but you might cross over things again and it's okay. And so if you meet yourself where you're at, instead of trying to shame those parts of you that have hard days, and you instead find a way to like love yourself even more on those days, that can help you create the unconditional love that we all deserve. And that's what I want for you. And so on those days when you're having hard days, what works for me is like extra self-care. So it might mean that you are reaching out for help. It might mean that you are, giving yourself a little bit more time to get ready in the morning. It might mean that you find a different way to like boost your confidence through, we talked about grounding in the Feel Good Naked Challenge. So like going on a longer nature walk or getting a little bit more sunshine, taking a little bit of a longer lunch at work if it's possible, maybe closing out early from the office and taking a little bit of time for you, maybe taking a half day, maybe just setting your alarm so you're going to sleep early enough. And like all those little things can add up and it can be a form of self-care. And by showing yourself that love, even on your hard days, it can really help heal a part of you that you might not even realize needs that love right now. And so if you are having a tough day, I definitely recommend that. Just hype yourself up, give yourself grace, focus on the things that make you great. If you don't already have a list, do that. If you can prepare in advance for this, if you know like certain times of the month or even times of the year, like if you do deal with like seasonal depression or anything like that, planning for that, prepare in advance, find a way to do that. and then ultimately practicing self-care. And the goal of this is unconditional self-love, is stepping into your confidence even on your hard days, because you can keep showing up for yourself. And the other thing is like, don't compare how much you showed up for yourself on the hard day to like showing up for others on the not as hard days where you're like feeling great, right? And so instead of comparing them day to day, recognize that like showing up confidently is going to look different day to day. It's going to look different chapter to chapter, and that's okay. So I hope this was helpful to hear. Let me know if you have anything else that works for you. These are probably the main things that work for me. I honestly was struggling to show up and share this with you guys today because I'm going through the Feel Good Naked challenge again. And like I'm sharing the challenge from last year, and then I'm doing it on my own. And I decided originally I was going to like share double the videos. So I was going to share the videos from last year, and then I was going to make more videos. But then I was like, you know what? I want this to be for me. So I still want to share my journey. And so I'm still sharing with you guys the Feel Good Naked challenge. But some of the stuff I'm doing for me right now are just for me in this moment. And I'm going to be sharing more about that in the next few weeks. So definitely make sure you're subscribed to the podcast because we got a lot of big things happening in the next few months. So I will keep you clued in. But for now, I'm just recognizing, hey, I'm meeting myself where I'm at. This is what I need, and this is how I'm choosing to show up in this chapter, and that's okay. And so I'm putting a lot of energy into my one-on-one clients, a lot of energy into the podcast, and I'm pouring into the free challenge so that you guys can go through this 30-day Feel Good Naked challenge in your own time. And so that like everyone can benefit the way that I benefited the past like year and a half. It made such a difference in my life, and I want it to do the same for you. So if you're working on feeling more confident in your skin, if you're working on that unconditional self-love, this is definitely something you want to do. So try some of these things that we talked about as far as showing up for yourself on your hard days, and then try some other free challenges. So go ahead and click the link in my show notes. It's jgofitlife.com/go naked, and you can go ahead and start your 30-day free challenge and start to just meet yourself where you're at, embrace your body where you're at, and it's just a really, really good place to be opposed to going into some crazy diet or something this summer. So thank you guys for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I will see you in the next one.